Folks, we are on a roll lately. I said that last time. I'm saying it again. We've got another great guest for the Mañana No Mas podcast. This individual is Mike Stott. I've seen him on the WP Tonic show. He kind of spied on me on one of our episodes and said, hey, I'd like to be on the show. I thought, this is fantastic. So I'm bringing him to you. Everybody, welcome Mike. Mike, go ahead and tell people a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So hi everyone, I'm Mike. Been in the WordPress space probably almost 14 years now. I started off just being a user of WordPress back in the day when it didn't do as much as it can do now. So I spent a ton of time just learning WordPress and then started to freelance with helping other people get websites set up on WordPress. There was a website called People Per Hour. I don't know if that was popular in the States or not, but I did a bit of freelance work on there. And just sort of built up a side business at the time because I was still working in finance, and just sort of fell in love with WordPress, how easy it was to use, how easy it was to get your pages on the internet without messing around in HTML files. And I remember at the time I was freelancing for, it was a caravan holiday website, and they were spinning up a website for every location across the UK. And he paid me £20 a time to install WordPress. And WordPress is like the famous 5-minute install at the time. And it was like, this is easy. I'm doing this in like 5 minutes, and he's paying me £20 a time because he didn't want to do it. And I was fast at doing it. And I got like the basic website set up with that as well. And he could just run from that. So that sort of got me hooked into making money online and just being in WordPress. And then around 2011, I started a social ebook store because I wrote an ebook when I was leaving my finance job of how to get worse at Call of Duty. And that went on and sold more than I thought it would do because it was just a bit of fun. But then I said, right, I'm going to spin up an Amazon clone because I wasn't happy with Amazon Kindle at the time, like setting prices. So I did a social bookstore using BuddyPress, using WordPress. And
wow.
One of the authors at the time said, I'm working on a new book, but I've got like 5 book cover ideas. And I'd love to be able to put them on my author page and people could click them. It would open up like Facebook and people could like it. They could comment and we could see which cover is the best. And I'll go with that book cover. And I'm like, I don't know how to do that. So I put a job on the freelance website and somebody applied and said, I can build it as a plugin, but it'll cost you £1,000. I'm like, I've got no money to pay for this. So we did a joint venture, put it up on Cold Canyon at the time, and it went on to do like 6 figures in sales. So I probably should have paid the £1,000 and put it on myself. But on the back of that, that relationship with this freelancer then turned into the co-founder of the CRM that then went on to get acquired by Automatic just over 6 years ago. So me starting working with WordPress and learning plugins through that venture and building plugins and themes eventually led me where I am today, which is I'm still working on Jetpack CRM, which before it was rebranded as Jetpack CRM was the plugin that me and the co-founder that was going to charge me £1,000 and never see him again, we built that together and it just went from there. So that's my backstory in probably a couple of minutes. So yeah, hopefully that's interesting.
That backstory is like crazy similar to so many others, but now I'm a little bit jealous, and I give myself a little bit of I'm a little judgmental on myself, meaning that you took more risk, more advantages. Like right out of the chute, you figured out, okay, I can do this for 5 minutes. I get 20 pounds. That's 400 pounds an hour. Like that's good money. From a freelance perspective, like it's almost hard to go get a regular job after you get something like that. Because then you think, well, I just got to find 5 or 6 more people that want the same thing, right? And you could keep duplicating and duplicating. The switch from, so I'll just ask, were you like using Dreamweaver and stuff like that before WordPress or mucking around in HTML code design?
So HTML, so I was just opened a text editor at the time, and I can't remember which one it was. It might have been Notepad++. I'm probably showing my age there. And so when I used to work in finance and did a lot with Microsoft Excel.
Yeah.
And there were people that were they'd graduated university in my team that were typing a number into a cell in a spreadsheet, typing another number next to it, getting a calculator and then adding them together and typing that up in the third cell. I'm like, that's not the point. You can do like sell plus sell equals the answer. And they're just like, they spent so much time doing it on a calculator. So I'm like, this was a big financial services company, and it was quite embarrassing. So I thought, well, I could go around and like consult with these companies and train the staff on actually how to properly use Excel. So I built a website with the domain name excellence.info back because the .com was taken, and just built all that in HTML. And then I decided I wanted to add like an about page. I had to go into every single file and change the HTML in every header. And then I looked at, actually I can include a header file into it. So I only need to do it once. And then when it got to starting a blog, I might have no idea how I'm going to do this. So that's when I researched like WordPress and just then ported it all over to WordPress.
So did you kind of just like skip the whole phase of being like an agency? Like you're like, I don't want to make a ton of websites for a bunch of people. I'd rather make product.
Correct. Yeah. So I had a few clients when I was freelancing. So the £20 install, I started to feel quite bad that like they were paying me £20 for 5 minutes. So I just spent a bit of time, wrote them a document of how to do it, and then sort of like cut that income out. And they were happy that they're like, oh, I can actually do it myself. Like, I don't need to keep paying you. So I think that was like, I then went on to do some other bigger website builds. And then I just got a little bit fed up of client work because I had some plugins as well. So anything that I did there, I sort of built a plugin or built a theme, and that started to sell enough to like replace the client work. So I was still doing some client work here and there, but not a lot. I never went the agency route. I never had a team. It was always just myself. And in the later stages, this other developer, that if you look in the backstory, he's called Woody. So we've done quite a lot of things together, and we had a lot of competitions. So he had plugins, I had plugins, and we did like the race to 10,000 in like revenue for a new plugin, who could get it there first. And it was very much like hacking things together. And like I did a WordPress plugin that was like face mash that only because I watched the Social Network movie. And I'm like, that'd be quite cool to rank images on a website, to like randomly bring up 2 gallery photos and people could click and choose which was the best one. So there's a lot of little things like that that just got me learning development and plugins and trying to like find real world use cases as opposed to like going the agency route. So I never did an agency. I've always been productized.
So I'm taking the more common route. So I've done agency work for a while now. And it was like a one-person agency for a long time. Then we started bringing in some team members, and now I've got team members all over the globe. I've got a guy that does data. I've got a girl that does graphics. I've got a girl that does instructional design for our e-learning projects. People that want like articulate 360 stuff. It's like, yeah, I could figure it out, but why should I be figuring things out all the time, right? I'd rather just project manage and give the project someone, pay them well, but have a really solid project for the client. And so it's enabled us to scale a little bit, but I'm kind of in the same spot now, right? I've had most of my clients have been great experiences. I love my people. I love my projects. But after a while, like I'm 58 now, and I think to myself, do I want to be chasing the next, website contract 10 years from now? Like because it's the treadmill that never ends, right? You're always trying to fill the top of the funnel, and you're always trying to get more clients. You're always trying to churn it. And I get it. That's business. But I've been introduced to the product game through doing these podcasts and talking to great people like you. And now I've been brought into a project where we are in the final throes of like figuring out how we want everything to be, package it up, and actually submit it as a plugin. And the idea of launching a plugin, it's to me, it's kind of intimidating, especially if it's going to be my face all over it, But it seems like, and now you feel free to tell me I'm crazy, but it seems like 8 years ago, 10 years ago, if you released a product and you were independent, it seemed like you had a higher chance of getting traction than you do today. It seems like you've got 60,000 plus plugins in the repository, and there's just a lot of white noise everywhere. And somehow you got to get your stuff to rise to the top. And that seems like a really daunting adventure.
It's a good question. So I think even when I started, there was still like 45,000 plugins or something. Ooh. There was still like a crazy number. It wasn't like there was only a couple of thousand.
Yeah.
I don't know whether that's including themes. But yeah, definitely like a bunch of my plugins hardly did anything. There was only like the social gallery one, the CRM, and I did like a wp-edit.com, which was a Reddit clone. So you could have a Reddit running on WordPress, so it looked just like Reddit, except you could choose, like, it had the categories across the top, and it was using WordPress taxonomies as subreddits, and so that one did quite well because people wanted to clone Reddit. And then I had one called Product Hunt. Not Product Hunt, it was like Product Hunt. It was called Plugin Hunt, and people were using that as like ranking. It was a theme that was more like a WordPress. It turned WordPress into like something similar, but not the same. So those are the ones that sort of did quite well for me, was like looking at what would people after spinning their own version of and giving them the ability to do that with WordPress. Some plugins did terrible. So I had one called Battle Vault, where it was sort of like, it's meant to be like 2 Street Fighter characters, whatever you were, A versus B, and then like whoever got the most votes, like their energy would stay higher and the other energy would go lower. And that hardly sold anything, but it was just a bit of fun. So it's sort of finding a need of like what are people looking for? And like, so whatever you're packaging and building, like, is it what your clients are asking you for? And you can productize it that way. So I think that's the way I would look at it. As for growing hours, the things that helped was just getting out to like WordCamps and sponsoring, and like we did a load of guest posts. The social gallery plugin did really well because we did an integration with NextGen, and then NextGen wrote about us. So it's sort of like, how can you, like, I think we spoke about it last time, like, don't compete for the same pie, because you can always bake more pie.
Yeah.
But it's that, like, if there's a bigger plugin that you can complement that can help like lift yours up, those type of things, I would say, like, that's what's worked for us in the past, is having either an integration with a bigger plugin and getting them to write about us, or having, similar with CRM, we got ConvertKit at the time to include us on their integrations page. And that was quite a good driver for traffic, just to get going, because they're like, okay, I'm using ConvertKit. And then that's an integration with WordPress to get your ConvertKit list into your WordPress CRM.
So I find the whole CRM market, I guess fragmented is the word, but it's very interesting to me, because when I talk to different creators of different CRMs, they all have a different definition of what a CRM actually is. Like, and when I talk to clients, they have no idea what to expect from a CRM. So some people think, okay, it's names and emails. And then other people think it's names, emails, and scheduling. Other people think it's names, emails, scheduling, and email automations. What were the major points in your CRM project? And then what do you think has helped it succeed so well?
So for us, it was sort of built in 2 ways. So the co-founder I built it with, his dad was in construction. So he built it very much for construction businesses that needed to. So he was going out there, visiting like a building project, because he was doing roofing, and was like, right, I need to then. So he got the details, he'd come home on a sticky note, and then he'd never follow up with a quote, as a lot of like tradespeople tend to do, certainly in the UK. And so that was sort of the initial build, was to make it easier for him to like log that contact into his WordPress dashboards. So it was just like name, email, and it's like, well, this person needs a quote. So then once you've done the quote, then like the person can accept it, and then you go and do the work, and then you come back and invoice. So that was the core of it. And at the time I was doing a bunch of like, all these products I'd built were running on WooCommerce. So it's really useful for me. I had like 2 different websites, one for plugins, one for themes, and saying like, well, WooCommerce, I want to get all of this data into one CRM, like sitting behind like each site. So if somebody bought the theme and I had a plugin for that theme, I could email them and say, you purchased this theme from this website, but there's a plugin available over here. So I needed everything in one place. And I think that's what's helped the success there, was we made it easy to use and like WooCommerce integrated. So if you're a WooCommerce store that wants to see everything in one place and know like who's paid what, who your most valuable customers are, and then use those to then email them like special offers if they're more loyal. I think that's what like the main selling points for us were.
Is your system using like a lead score or a contact score?
No, it doesn't do anything like that. So it uses segments and tags. So you can say, you have like smart segments that will put, if someone spent over $1,000 through your, like if you've got 5 different websites, it will bring all that together and say this person spent over 1,000, over 5,000, over 10,000, and then segment them that way. It doesn't sort of do any like scoring of like a contact inquiry that might come in. It's more looking at like who's spending what with you. Are you capturing the right number of leads? Like, is that gone up or down? So you can see your contact trends.
Yeah.
And we use that for CRM. We have a download page on the website that gets your email, and that goes into the CRM. So we can see like how that trend's going. Has it gone down? Has it gone up? Depending on what we do. Like if we run any special promotions, we can see actually these people are coming in through this different form, and that's got us this number of leads. And then you can see how many of those then later down the line convert to be customer.
Nice. And so to kind of switch the gear a little bit, is the right term acquired? Like, was it acquired by Jetpack, or you sold it, right? And now you work for Automatic kind of directly.
Yeah. So I think the term's acquihire. So there was two of us, and so we joined Automatic with the acquisition, and then we just rebranded the products. And we've been there. I've been there like just over 6 years now. So acquihired. I think they were looking into Automatic and WordPress were looking into the CRM space themselves, and did they go ahead and build it, or did they buy it? And it was at the time where we were looking to hire and like expand the team, and we were struggling finding good people. And Automatic have got a bunch of good people, so it was a bit of a win-win. That why should we spend all this time doing all this stuff, like trying to get good WordPress developers, designers, support people, when it's just part and parcel of what Automatic do day in, day out.
I find the whole perspective of Automatic a super interesting topic. And just for a framework of reference, so you know like where I'm coming from. The very first person that I had a private conversation with in person that I met at WordCamp in San Diego was Otto. So I went with the guys from Lifter LMS. Lifter LMS is great. You know, they're a wonderful team. They took me, and Chris and Thomas were incredibly generous. Everyone they talked to, they introduced me to. And people think I'm an extrovert, but I need some quiet time. You know, like sometimes I need to step away. And so we were on the party boat in San Diego, and it was mayhem. Drinks are flying. I'm meeting 20 people in a minute. And then I decided to, why is my phone ringing? Right in the middle of an interview. And so then I decided to step to the back of the boat. I'm on the back of the boat, and this guy with a cane was following me. Like everywhere I went, I saw this guy with this cane. And then finally I was standing by the back of the boat. He's standing by the back of the boat. And I finally just said, "Hey, every time I turn around, you're standing right behind me." I said, might as well introduce myself. My name is Kurt. And he goes, "Well, I'm Otto." And I said, "Oh, so you work with WordPress?" And he goes, "Yeah." And then I didn't think anything about it because I thought with WordPress, everyone on the boat works with WordPress, right? And he didn't really give me any details, but then we ended up having this long conversation for like 40 minutes. And he was a great guy, super nice guy. Chris Badgett comes over from Lifter LMS. I go, "Hey, I met a new friend. This is Otto. Otto, do you know Chris?" Chris goes, "I've never met Otto. It's a pleasure to meet you. Oh my God, you know, what a privilege." And I'm like, what's going on? When we walked away, Chris goes, "That's Otto. He runs all the plugins, man." And I was like, "Oh," he goes, "You got a knack for always meeting the most important people." And, but he was great. And when I interviewed, Matt, I interviewed Matt on the WP Tonic show. And before the interview, we had like kind of a quiet, you know, like just breaking the ice kind of conversation before the interview. Matt was so like, what I felt was endearing, authentic, conversationalist. We talked about music. I had no idea he was a jazz fan. Like such human, right? Very humanistic conversation. And so I have these really good impressions of people I meet from Automatic. I just met with Derek Hansen last week. And I can't even remember what division he's in. And he's going to introduce me to Kyle with Automatic for agencies.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'm meeting all these fantastic people. But then when you get on X, you see people say these disparaging things, and it's like, I don't get it. Everyone I know that's been acquired by Automatic seems pretty happy, and you look pretty happy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think if you look at my Twitter, one of my most popular tweets was, I can't remember what it was about, but there was somebody that was just bashing Matt, like saying he was a horrible human, and like came up with all these words like. So then I retweeted a photo of me and Matt from WordCamp Berlin. and said, like, try these different words. Like these. If you spend any time with him, like, you realize he's not all these bad things that these people are saying, and he's completely the opposite. And I think that just picked up a lot of traction. That people like to just throw, whether that person was doing it to get the likes, like to engagement farming or whatever. I was like, if you spend any time with him, he's a really nice person and easy to talk to. And so I've been there 6 years now. The acquisition sort of covered, like the way the deal was structured. It's sort of like a 3-year period where, like, things vest over. And so I could have left as soon as that had happened. And the fact that I'm still there 3 years later after that is like a testament to the company, the people. And if it was as bad as people from the outside like make it out to be, then you wouldn't get people that have been there for like 3 times as long or like 20 plus years. Because I think it's just maybe a little bit of jealousy as well for people that were maybe felt like if they were let go, they felt like maybe they were let go for reasons that they shouldn't have been let go for, and things like that.
Yeah, everyone's going to have, every group has some dissenters, right? And of course, X rewards those with the loudest voices. So you can see how things happen. But like I said, every interaction I've had with automatic people so far has been unbelievably positive. So it's just striking to me, that dichotomy in perspective. Now, to kind of switch gears completely different, spying on you digitally, looking at your Twitter, your pinned post is the 2024 year in review, and it looks like it's about fitness.
Okay.
Are you
trying?
What's that?
It's about a bit of everything. So in the year, I did year in reviews every year, like without fail, until around the acquisition time, and then I stopped. So 2023 and 2024, my first sort of like two new ones getting back into doing them. So I try and like shape it around like family, travel, work, and fitness, like those 4 areas of things to do. So yeah, it wasn't primarily fitness, but fitness was definitely in there. I think it's in my charts.
Well, yeah, it's the chart at the lower, chart at the lower right caught my eye, right? I remember specifically when I interviewed Anil Gupta with Multidots. He's into like meditation and peace and yoga, that kind of thing, like internal health, well-being. So he's all about that. I personally have like this whole message, like I have a whole section of training in my website that's about fitness. It's like, you are only going to succeed fiscally as much as your body allows you to physically. Right. Like I understand there's the Stephen Hawkings of the world that, crippled and still did something amazing. But by and large, most people need to have a certain level of health and wellness in order to perform well with other things. And I went through my own personal battle. I had a job that was really demanding in the 2014, 15, 16 range. And I put on a ton of weight, Mike. I mean, you couldn't see my neck. I went straight from my chin to my chest. And I couldn't fit on the airplane anymore. Like I went to sit down on the airplane in the middle seat and I didn't fit between the armrests. And that was the wake up call. Like if I'm like, I fly for a living. This is when I was a corporate trainer. I said, I fly for a living. I don't even fit on the airplane. Like something's got to change. So I literally quit my job and took a job where I didn't have to travel as much. And then my wife and I joined a fat farm and I dropped like 75 pounds. And I started running Spartan races and warrior dashes and bicycling events and all those kinds of things. And it literally changed everything. Like I performed better at work. I performed better at home. Yeah. I was a better dad. My mental attitude was better. Like everything was great. And so that really struck me seeing that year in review post for you. How do you keep things balanced and straight?
Yeah, I've probably gone one further this year. So this year I've gone more into this, like I've been using ChatGPT as my like personal like workout person. So, and there's another tweet, if you spied far enough back, that I said like, have you ever walked past like a parked car and caught your reflection in the window and thought, oh my God, what's happened? So there was sort of, it was reflected on the back of that. And even in like, I've got pictures, like selfies of me with like Zach when he was a baby in lockdown. And I'm like, wow, I'm a lot bigger than I am now. And so we started just doing these like community fitness classes where like you're not on your own going to a gym, not knowing what to do.
Yeah.
So that's like I try and do that 2 times a week because it gets me out of the like it's in my calendar as an appointment, so I don't like just think I'm not going to go. So that's like every Tuesday and Thursday at like 9:30. I try and get that out of the way, and then it was so I could do things with the kids as well. Now they're getting bigger, like they're wanting to go to the bike park and run around more. And if I just eat all the time, I'm just not going to be able to like be a strong dad for them. But that was the main driver. That it was the fact like I don't want to die when I'm like young or anything like that. So this year I've been like using ChatGPT, and I write about this in the year-end review, and just like getting into like, in the morning now I take a bit of various vitamins, and I've started using lion's mane like supplements as well.
Yeah.
And I think even that and like an electrolyte in the morning is sort of that's helped me even more. I did a tweet last week, like because we did a family vacation all the way in Hawaii, and then came all the way back home, and like went out to Portland for WordCamp US. And last week I'm like, is this the start of burnout, or am I just tired? I've been eating American food for like 3 weeks, and
No bueno.
kids are off school, no bueno. And then this week I got back into the gym again, and the supplements and the eating healthier, and I'm like immediately feeling like that it's not burnout. I was just tired. I was just, and it's doing that bit of fitness, like walking the kids to school and back, and then doing a bit in the gym. That it sort of like it gets you fired up for the day. That's why I like to do it in the morning, because it just gets it out of the way as well. Because once the kids are in bed, we're tired. We put something on Netflix and we're sort of done for the day. So getting out of the way makes my days so much better. Like you said, it's like you can have more motivation. Like, and then I think the supplements, it's hard to say like whether it's helping or not. But I think if I come off them, like I'll probably still, if I'm still doing the fitness, I'll probably still feel okay. But I wanted to experiment with listening to what ChatGPT would say. So I'll send him my workouts at the end of a session saying, do you think of this one? And it gives me all this feedback. So that's been quite useful.
Nice. Who knows? You might be making a new WordPress app for workout evaluation or something. The food in America is so toxic. It's hard to even explain to people that don't go to Europe and don't sample good food. People in my small circle, in my little community, they kind of get it, right? I live in a very small town in Kansas now, but when I lived in Southern California, the people that lived in Southern California, they treated me like I was crazy. You know, I started buying pork bellies and making my own bacon. I don't buy bacon that's made and sold at the store anymore. You know, I have a smoker. I smoke my own meats. We would buy home raised eggs whenever possible and never buy eggs from the store. And people were like, what's the matter with you? And I'm like, after I traveled to Italy, like the eggs taste different, the bacon tastes different, the meat tastes different, everything was different. And I ate until I was completely oversatisfied. Like I ate every meal in Italy. I love Italy. And we drank 2 bottles of wine with dinner. And then I would come home after a week in Italy and would have lost 5 pounds. And I go, wait a minute. Like I ate like an eating champion, right? So the next time I went to Italy, I said, I'm going to watch my calories. I'm not going to go crazy this time. I'm just going to eat like normal. And then we'll see and I lost 10 pounds after being in Italy for a week. And then you come back to America, and when I was traveling for work and eating restaurant food, I was trying to count the calories based on the restaurant menus, you know, so I'm going to try and keep it under 2,000 calories, but it didn't matter the calorie count because the quality of the food is horrible. So you're always fighting that. And I run into people here really, really struggling with fitness and health and well-being, and they think they're eating healthy, but they're not. So when you said I went to Portland and I had American food and I think I'm feeling burnt out, it's like, yeah, that'll happen.
It's probably the food. Yeah. It was the pancakes. Like we went to Denny's with the kids when we were in Canada because the jet lag was completely thrown off. We're like, where's open at 5 a.m? And there was a Denny's. So like, got Denny's, and we all ordered pancakes. And like, we should have just ordered one. Like, we don't need, like, in the UK, they're sort of like yay big. But Americans, it's like it filled the plate, and the kids, like the cream wasn't like squirty cream that you'd get. I think it was like cream cheese, and they had a little bit of that, and they're like, bah, no, don't want it. So I'm like, oh, we're gonna have to eat those pancakes as well.
Yeah.
And like the pancakes came with a side of hash browns, and like, so it's like, can we swap that for some fruit? It was just giving you like, it was so much food. And
Yeah. The
it
last
was
time I
like
took
really,
the last time I took my daughter to Denny's, I told the waitress, I said, I haven't been to a Denny's in forever. I said, what do a lot of people get? And I think she called it the Grand Slam breakfast or something, right?
yeah,
And it comes on like 3 or 4 plates. It's
it is
pancakes, egg,
preference.
toast, and like bacon or sausage, all this stuff. And I go, there's no way anybody would eat all that. She goes, oh no, people eat it all. People eat it all, sweetheart.
Mhm.
And then when you sit in Denny's and you look around, everybody's twice your size, and I'm a big
Yeah.
fella. So I'm like, wait a minute, I'm a pretty big fella and these people are twice my size. No more Denny's.
No more Denny's. Yeah. We only went there once, and then we didn't even, I don't think we had hotel breakfast. We like to find places out and about, because we did Vancouver, and then we did Hawaii for 10 nights, and then came back to Vancouver, flew all the way back to the UK, and then the day after flew all the way back to literally Portland, which is just below Vancouver. So I'm just like, if I plan my travel better, because we booked this Hawaii trip because it was a wedding in Canada, and then a trip in, because it's always been on the bucket list, but it's always been a little bit too far from the UK. And we're like, well, we're in Canada for a wedding, let's just hop over there, we'll take the kids, we'll make it our summer vacation. And it was like one of the best places we've been, I would say. The food was just, again, so much food.
Yeah, Vancouver is beautiful. I did a lot of work in Canada, and some of the trainings that I did were like right near the Canadian side of Niagara Falls, which the Canadian side of the falls is spectacular. It's beautiful. And then we used to go to Whistler to do the training, and that would put me up on Vancouver Island and visiting dealerships there. Beautiful part of that country. It's absolutely stunning. It's expensive as heck, but it's absolutely beautiful. I know that we're running kind of low on time, but I do want to touch on one more subject because you surprised me with one of your answers. I didn't know that you had published an ebook.
Yeah.
So what was the subject of that book, and publishing that book? What were the benefits of you publishing that book?
Oh, well, good question. So I used to work in consultancy for PwC, and I was in pensions at the time. And this is 2007. And we used to play a lot of Call of Duty, Modern Warfare. Like we used to call it Call of Duty Tuesdays. And then that sort of then expanded into Wednesdays as well. And then there was a Call of Duty like Widows Club of the people, like the wives and girlfriends that never saw the other house because we were just on the PlayStation. And when I handed in my notice, they had like a 3-month, they call it gardening leave, where they take you off all your clients because they don't want you to take out like any of the like advice or things immediately to competitors. So they take you off for 3 months. And I'm like, so I was saying to the senior manager at the place, like, what do I do in these 3 months? And he's like, well, why don't you write a book on how to be terrible at Call of Duty because you're really not very good? So I wrote a book about 101 tips on how to get worse at Call of Duty. And we put that on Amazon. And we said, like, if it sells enough copies to just buy ourselves a steak dinner when we go to Amsterdam at New Year, then it'll be a success. And it just did really well. So it did about $3,000 in sales in its lifetime. Wow. So then I got into the whole thing, like, what if I do even more ebooks around these 101 tips to get worse at something?
Yeah.
So I had 101 tips to get drunk if you like in Manchester, like, because there's so many different pubs. 101 tips on like a zombie version of the game for Call of Duty Zombies. And then I even did a couple of like illustration kids books. And so I had this big like idea in my head about like, there was How Cow was teaching you how to do things, Where Bear was geography, When Hen was history, Why Fly was science. And I think if I let me get this empire of like children's books, but I was terrible at like illustrating them. So the How Cow book's still on Amazon, and it's just all circles because I could draw circles they were easy to do. So there's a book, it was Counting Made Easy, and that did really well on Amazon. And then the second book of How Cow was Journey Through Space. And again, because planets are all circles, they were nice and easy to illustrate. So that got me into the ebook thing. The benefits, it was just, I wasn't really wanting to be an author or anything like that. It was just like, I can self-publish a book. You always see these success stories of like a self-published book selling 100 copies a day. And I'm like, that could be me one day. And I think it's the same with plugins as well. If you look at some of the bigger ones, and certainly in Code Canyon days, then like you had the Avada theme that was doing, if you believe the weekly stats, that was doing amazingly well. And you work it out and you're like, that's doing like $1 million a month. And you're like, here's me on, like, at the time, on like a new graduate, like lower consultancy thing, doing 200 hours a month and getting paid like way less. And it's like, well, if I do this, then maybe you can do that. So it's that sort of, I think it led me into the like digital product sales just from doing those digital, because I didn't have to spend any more time after the first writing of that book.
Yeah.
And I spent a bunch of time like in the Kindle forums, just sort of like engaging with other authors, and in the signature of those forums with like the link to my book. And I think that sort of stuff would probably still like hold true today. Like if you're selling any like products, digital products, you hang out where the customers are, go and like comment, be helpful, and then they'll discover a bit more about you and then maybe buy your book. That was sort of, that was.
It's interesting. I worked in the automotive industry for over 20 years and I hated it, but I was good at it. And out of frustration, I wrote a book called Service Writing in Black and White, and I published my first book in 2007. By then I'd already started my agency and I had left the car business, but it was like my exit. I just had to clear my head of all the nonsense that was in there. It wasn't to sell the book, it was to clear my brain. And people started to buy the book. Kind of freaked me out a little bit. But publishing that book literally changed the trajectory of my whole family, because Ducati found that book, bought it, read it, and then called me out of the blue one day. Now I'm a motorcycle freak. I raced for 20 years, you know. I've never been to the Isle of Man, but I raced here in the States. And so I get a phone call. This is Barbara from Ducati. Is this the author of Service Writer in Black and White? And I'm like, all right, funny. Who's this? You know, I thought it was a joke. And she goes, no, I'm really calling from the offices at Ducati. And I was like, whatever, you know. And then she's like, no, we read your book and we really like it. Have you ever thought about writing a course or a training course for service professionals? And I thought, well, this is unique. So they flew me to California. They took me out to lunch, introduced me to the team, and then asked me if I would be willing to write this training course. And so I wrote the training course. When I was done writing the course, they said, we don't have anyone to teach it. Would you be willing to teach it? I said, sure, I could teach it. And they said, we want to do it all in Las Vegas, but we don't have anyone to run the events. Could you organize and run the events? So now I got to be an event planner. And so I was like, I'll figure it out. Sure. You know, and I said, I don't know what this budget looks like. Cause they said, how much is this going to cost? I said, I don't know. What's your budget? And then they gave me a budget that was more than I would have asked for in the first place. And so I said, yeah, good news. I think we can make all this happen for you. And we were a struggling agency in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And overnight from publishing that book, Ducati North America became my biggest client. And we did that for years. And then Ducati ended up hiring me to take their external training program and bring training in-house. And then that became my corporate specialty, right? But that writing that book is what got all the wheels turning. You know, I mean, multiple years of better than six figures, when realistically, without publishing that book, I probably would have been held down in the $50,000, $60,000 range. So I'm very grateful I did it.
I'll keep my fingers crossed for Sony to, pick the phone up.
There you go.
And do training.
There you go. Can you make us another book about Call of Duty?
Yeah, on how to get terrible. But I'll send you a link to it afterwards. It's only, I think, $6. If you ever play any video games like that, so I framed it in tip number 1 would be run out in the open, and then it said instead of doing this, maybe stick to the walls, hide behind containers. So it was a stupid thing that you would do, but then this is what you should do instead. And it took me so long to get that. I think I got to about 70 tips, and then I'm really struggling. But there was 101 tips was a thing, I think, a few years back. So I thought I'll just piggyback off that, and we eventually got there. So I think the further you get through the book, you can probably tell the last few tips are not the best, but I've got to get that 101. And I am not a gamer. I'm not a gamer at all. But my son, we let him play the games, and then he was away, and I put on his Oculus and I turned the game on, and I just want to see what it was like. And it was some game, first shooter game. You fall out of the sky, and then you're supposed to be ready to go do something, right? And I would see him do it. He'd fall out of the sky, he'd run into a building and hide, and then do whatever, right?
every time I landed, I instantly got shot.
Good.
It's like,
Yeah.
I was like, I don't see the fun of this game at all. I got shot like
Yeah.
20 times. I'm like, that's it. I'm done. Never played again. I think I have
Yeah, it's
100
definitely
now.
frustrating.
I'm the 102nd reason on how to suck at a first shooter game.
Yeah.
Hey man, it's I'm looking at the time. I really appreciate you coming on the show and I want to value you. So, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you or figure out what you're into right now?
Sure. So I'm on Twitter, X, as at Mike Stott WP, I believe. And then I'm also on LinkedIn as Mike Stott. So I'm spending a bit more time on LinkedIn these days. I think it's a bit like Twitter can be a bit angry, whereas LinkedIn, I've sort of not been on that much. But I'm starting to share a bit more content around CRMs and like just general entrepreneurial stuff there. I've got a website called mikestott.me, which is where I have a newsletter about how to grow your audience and create content that converts people from a visitor into a lead. And then the next step from a lead is turning them into a customer, which is when you want to start looking at things like CRM. And you can find me hanging around jetpackcrm.com. There's a bunch of content on there, but generally, so they're the main places I hang out. So I randomly tweet more personal things. LinkedIn is probably more business stuff, and just my website for the newsletter if you're interested in learning a bit more
And
about.
you're pretty much at every major WordCamp, right?
I try to be. Not been to the Europe one for a couple of years. They've clashed with like the Foo Fighters gigs and some things that I think are better than a WordCamp. So I missed a few because of concerts. I like to get out to the one in Asia because we have family out in Asia, and I think the Asian ones are just a lot more friendly and welcoming. The WordCamp US was actually my first WordCamp US this year, and so I've never been before. So that was interesting. It was nice to. It felt like I was doing all the networking all over again because everybody knew everybody that had been going there for years, and it's been at the same place I think for 2 or 3 years. And I was saying like whenever I talk to an American and they tell me where they're from, like they expect me to know where that is on the map, and I'm like, I have no idea. Like you say, you're from near Cape Cod, but I don't know where Cape Cod is. Like, show me on a map. I know where New York is. I know DC. I know like San Francisco and Vegas. Like, if you're not from any of those, you might need to help me a little bit with like which side of the country this place would be.
I'm in a little town in Kansas. I'm almost physically in the center of the country. And then next year, the WordCamp's going to be in Phoenix, which is a little bit of a drive for me, but I have a camper van and I'm already planning. I'm taking my road bike, my mountain bike, and I'm already getting people together to go mountain biking while we're at WordCamp.
Oh, nice. Did you go to the one in Portland? Did you go to WordCamp a couple of weeks ago?
No. I didn't go to Portland. Portland's not on my list of places I want to go to. And you alluded to that in one of your X posts with, the opioid crisis and fentanyl and people walking around doing the fentanyl bends and all that stuff. And I was raised in Philadelphia, and a town that I used to hang out in as a kid in Philadelphia is overrun with that stuff. It's just everywhere, and for me, that's just a heartbreaking situation. And so I was like, I have no interest. I just don't want to go. Like in my mind, it was a polluted thought. And when I go to those WordCamps, I need to be extremely positive, and I just didn't feel like I was in that space. So I'm really looking for Phoenix.
Yeah, I think that was the thing with Portland because we did it on our honeymoon. So when we got married, we spent 10 months traveling around the world, and we went through like all of the West Coast America, and like it didn't stand out then. It stood out a little bit in Seattle. There was a few like homeless tent areas. Yeah, it sort of was contained. But then Vancouver, Canada was quite like it was similar in Eastside downtown, where we ended up walking through the kids without really knowing where we were going. And then Portland, I was just like, I don't know whether it was where the convention center was. It was the direction I was going. So I was going on lots of really nice like bike path, and there was a couple that looked like they'd just having a rest after riding the bike, but then there was tinfoil on the floor and like a lighter, and they were just not responsive. So I'm just like, I'm going to keep on like walking it, and it just made it feel not as safe or not how I remembered it, whether it was just the area I was going through. Because then I stayed in the downtown area a little bit after that, and even then there was like, if you went to the wrong street corner, there was like people that you wouldn't want to like spend too long looking at them in case they came like you offended them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean, it's not fun when you got to keep your head on a swivel and worry about things like safety when you're going to something that you're supposed to be fun and networking and having a great time. And so, like I said, it wasn't on my radar, but Phoenix definitely is, and already making plans to meet people, go mountain biking, do great things. I'm hoping to see you there. That'd be awesome.
yeah, so either that or press conf. It depends when they land. So we do need somewhere to go with the kids as well. So it depends when half terms are. So I think press conf might land near the half term.
Yeah, I plan on doing press conf too.
Yeah. So whether I do that, whether I do WordCamp, whether I don't do either of them, it sort of depends on like if we're doing things for the kids or not. Because I think they've moved the dates of the WordCamp as well. I think it starts on a Sunday.
That's odd. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. So that'll be interesting. I'll definitely, again, I'm probably not doing the Mumbai one this year. Again, because we're doing things with family and various things, but wherever it ends up the year after in Asia, I'll probably potentially do that one. So if you've never done Asia, I'd recommend getting out there and experiencing that side of the world for a WordCamp.
Nice. Well, everybody, this has been Mike Stott. I hope you've enjoyed meeting him. I hope you take a chance to follow up with him, and we'll see you on the other side. Have a great one.
Yeah. Bye-bye.